Okay. Um, well, even if it's only the four of us or five of us, welcome to Bar to the Bone. I'm Sean Eustace. I'm hosting, and we are going to be joined by Jeff Miller, who's over there. And he is the director for Henry VIII, being presented by Baltimore Shakespeare Factory. It's coming up April 14th through 30th. It will be downtown off of St. Paul Street. And I could just let Jeff go for it, but I think I'll go ahead and ask the first question. Okay, what is Henry VIII about except for the king? What else is going on?
Great. Yeah, that's a great question. What is Henry VIII? It's the question most people ask when presented with this play, considering it is very rarely done among the Shakespeare canon. But this particular play takes place in the earlier on in Henry's reign, in Wives 1 and 2. Those of you who know your Tudor history, this is around the time of Henry's divorce from Catherine of Aragon and subsequent remarriage to Anne Boleyn of, France, and subsequent, the subsequent resulting schism into the Anglican Church, and we see sort of the beginnings of that. It's not too deep into that part of the history, but certainly we see some of the seeds being planted of separation between the Catholicism and the Church of England.
Well, we can't go too deep because it's only 2 hours.
Right. And it does cover a lot. It covers a lot of ground. We go all the way from the execution of the Duke of Buckingham, all the way through the birth and subsequent christening of future Queen Elizabeth I. And this play makes sure to let us know that Queen Elizabeth is going to be great. This makes no secret the fact that Queen Elizabeth's reign is going to be a great one. So like all history plays, you get a little bit of political propaganda from our friend William Shakespeare.
Is this the same Elizabeth who was kind of like the patron of Shakespeare?
Yes, that would be the one. This would be this is later on in Henry's life, or not in Shakespeare's life, in the writing of this. So this is sort of the post Elizabeth years, but we still have very fond feelings around Elizabeth and the whole Tudor family, and so we have only nice things to say so far. And in fact, that's something I think markedly interesting about this play in comparison to a lot of the other history plays, is that the play doesn't demonize too many people. Really, the only character it makes its villain is Cardinal Wolsey. And that's he is among the great Shakespeare villains, right? He's up there with your Richards and your Iagos and such. He's very, very conniving. But even he, when he is eventually thwarted, spoiler alert.
Spoiler.
all of the things I'm talking about, it's spoilers, but about history. None of this should be new information. Shakespeare's not changing history necessarily. He'll have his own little flavors on things, but no sudden reworkings of historical events. But when Cardinal Wolsey is thwarted, he has this big speech about redemption and about how people shouldn't strive for glory and give yourself up to God, and even Catherine, who Wolsey has wronged, on her deathbed is like, well, maybe at least he died in trying
Like
to redeem himself
braces
for
or
his
something,
scene
yeah.
for his sins. Yeah. I think
So one of the other things that's also fascinating is this is the last history he wrote, if not possibly the last play that Shakespeare wrote. And it's definitely the last one that was performed at the Globe. Do you want to go into that?
yeah. So this is infamously the play that burned the Globe down. Um, it's often referenced. The cannon fire during the coronation scene for Anne. They were using real stage effects, and so when they fired the cannon into the thatched roof of the Globe, it didn't go too well. There was no fire marshal there to tell them that wasn't a good idea. So unfortunately, the Globe did burn to the ground as a result. However, there are no reported casualties as a result, thankfully.
I believe the
So
casualty was one pair of pants which was extinguished with a mug of beer.
Yes, that is a fun historical fact that I enjoy very
you
much.
can't make this up.
But something interesting as well about the play in terms of location is that another of Shakespeare's company's performing spaces would have been the Blackfriars Theater as their indoor performing space. And much of the action of this play takes place in the Blackfriars courthouse. So that's kind of an interesting sort of historical, having people observe a trial that took place in the place where they're watching the play, right? It would be like watching a play about Lincoln's assassination at Ford's Theater, right? That's the kind of like interesting historical callback connected with this play.
That fun bit of kismet that we have with theater yeah. So, and people think we're making this up, but we're not. So let's go into the alternate title.
Yes. And that's something that's really was interesting to me about this play is in and among, besides the fact that it has been rarely produced, that it has this alternate title, which the other histories don't have. So the alternate title for Henry VIII is All is True, which is really interesting to me. It says a lot thematically about what is going on in this play. So much about the content of this play is surrounding what is true. It's dealing with court gossip and machinations, and who should you believe within the play. And then on another level, the play itself, the historical events that are being portrayed are not, there's a bit of a spin put on them, right? It's not going to be 100% historically accurate, nor do I think it's intended to be 100% historically accurate. So All is True, in my view, is said a little bit tongue-in-cheek. And in particular, I think this is a response to many other plays of the period that also deal with the subject matter of Henry VIII that tend to purport themselves as historical fact or recreation. And I think this was a way of kind of putting tongue in cheek about, well, no, this is the real story, this is the true story of Henry VIII. And it's there's a number of anachronisms and things going on in there that are not necessarily true to the period. They definitely really play up Wolsey's kind of wickedness in a way to make it more dramatically interesting. But there's a lot of true statements in the play. Catherine, I think, is very accurately represented in the way that she defends herself in her trial. There's a lot of text in there that comes from historical record of things we know that she said, which I think is particularly interesting. So there are elements of truth in there, but I think it's the dramatization, and we even get other characters, various gentlemen and lords and dukes and things commenting on the events, sort of from an outside perspective, to see kind of what should the audience be thinking about what is going on here in this play.
I keep on thinking of the phrase, you can't make this up, because all is true, but it's truth is stranger than fiction. You can't make some of this up. And I've gotten to hear some of the work that your actors have done, where they've done the research and said, no, actually this speech is word for word what she actually said. I'm like,
right.
Oh, that's cool. That's
Yes, Kathy Berry, who plays Catherine in our production, has done a good deal of research on the historical Catherine of Aragon, and pointed that out to me as well, that we're getting sort of word for word from historical record, right? I think, if you have that as a resource, all the better. I think so. For our production, the BSF production, I'm leaning into the fact that it is not 100% historically accurate. And as a result, you're going to see some anachronisms in there. You're going to see content that is true to the period. However, some of the details and the elements of the design, whether that be costume, set, or props, is going to have a little bit more of a modern flair to it. But I think that's ultimately, accurate to what Shakespeare was writing in this period.
Yeah, I was about to say that's also accurate to some of Shakespeare's original practices. Is you would have differing costumes of multiple periods on the stage at the same time. We don't have any Roman togas on this stage. We're not going back that far.
No togas.
Yeah,
no togas.
We definitely see some liberties with the way that people dress, which also might be influenced by the character's thought process, or there's a lot that's going on in there.
Doublets and suit jackets, right?
Yeah,
we're getting a kind of blend of old and new, but I think as a whole, the story is going to be cohesive, and the themes and the action that we're presenting is going to all make sense based on the design that we're presenting.
So one of the other things is that we're at a new location and we're not on the Kestrel, which is unfortunate. I know, but is there any difference that you've noticed between the old stage, the new stage, things that might be better, things that are definitely worse, or vice versa?
I will say, in the positive category, I think the acoustics in this space are great. We don't have to fight against air conditioning in this space. We don't have to fight against ice cream trucks and things of that nature coming from outside. I think it's a play you'll be able to hear very well. And that space, which is I don't know how to describe it. It's Sunday school space is it's kind of a, I don't know what the word to describe it.
It's an older it's a classic Sunday school space.
Oh yes. It feels both small and intimate and large at the same time, which I think is perfect for this play, which has so many themes of what is publicly being presented versus what conversations are happening in private. And that's something that we as a cast have really had a fun time of discovering how to stage those moments and make those distinctions clear. I think in the could use work category, I would say the lights are not 100% ideal. You'll be able to see the actors the whole time, which is, ultimately the goal, but if we had a, $1 million budget, put some lighting trees in that room and give us just a little more. But it's an intimate space. We keep the lights on throughout the show. You'll be able to see the actors and they'll be able to see you.
Which is also part of the fun of what BSF does. So
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
consistent at least. So this is, let's see, this is the first of our 2023 season. We've had our a couple of mini outdoor shows, and we managed to have King Lear, but this is really the first full in-person season. So thank you for taking it on. Thank you for taking on Henry VIII, because when they told me, hey, Jeff Miller wants to do Henry VIII, I'm like, I've only seen this once before. Okay. Yeah, and which we actually have a guest who's has done who actually directed it. So it's kind
why
of
is that? Why is it not performed very often?
I think so. That's a great question, and I think there are several reasons for that. It's a play that I fell in love with in grad school. Me and a few others of my cohort. I think people expect it to be truer to life than it is. I think people are put off a little bit by the historical inaccuracy at points. I think the other thing that puts people off is it ends with Elizabeth's christening, which from a dramatic perspective is an interesting place to end the play. As it's, we're not really sure what part it's resolving within the story, right? It seems like for the first part of the play, it's Catherine and Wolsey and Henry and that whole political triad. And then Archbishop Cranmer comes in, and then there's a little subplot with Archbishop Cranmer, and then it's all kind of finished. It feels at times like Shakespeare was rushing to get to the christening. It was like, I need to put the christening in this play for Elizabeth, but it didn't always 100% line up with the dramatic action that he was setting up previously. And so that's something that I, as a director, have had to come to terms with and to justify, and which I believe that we have in our production with some choice staging. And I won't spoil that, because that's not my choices, and our choices there have not exactly been within the text of the play necessarily. This is kind of a make it our own situation with the ending a little bit, but it's centered around this epilogue that Shakespeare's included a prologue and an epilogue to this play, which are very strange. And the first part is I come no more to make you laugh, and is basically telling everybody, be prepared, this is going to be a heavy one, like this is going to be upsetting, it's going to be sad, which is a strange way to begin the play. And then it ends with, well, we showed you some good women. If you didn't like it, some of you won't have liked this play because it won't have done a lot for you, but at least we showed you some good women, so you should clap for them.
So the prologue and epilogue lean heavily into the please forgive us for this play.
Yeah, and that's, I think, is another reason why it's less produced, is that it seems apologetic. And then I think also a lot of people are Shakespeare purists, and there is heavy evidence that this play, along with many other of his later plays, are collaboratively written, right. And that this play that is not 100% Shakespeare is therefore somehow less valid than others that are considered fully Shakespeare, which, who knows what that really means. But I think, those are some of the reasons that I've come across for why the play is considered to be less popular and less produced. Also, name recognition value. It's people recognize the name Henry VIII as one of the more famous kings in history, but the play itself just doesn't have that kind of
Doesn't really
pulling
cover
power.
it doesn't really cover the fascinating parts. It's not him just like eating turkey legs, hunting, jousting, and like
You
beheading
know, if it had gone through all 6 wives, like 6, right? I think 6 is another, example. Another great reason for us to be doing this play is that the story of Henry's wives has kind of gotten a resurgence, and I wanted to see how this play depicts at least 2 of them.
Yeah.
And does so very favorably, I would say. Beth, you have your hand up. I'd love to.
Yes, I was wondering, how much do you think of an influence during Shakespeare's lifetime when he was writing that Lord Burleigh, William Cecil, his son Robert, and Sir Francis Walsingham might have had on influencing him to be careful with he wrote, and maybe even in the directing, because when you have those 3 in power, they can make you an offer you can't refuse.
Oh, yes. Yes. I think there were a lot of political pressures around the way that Shakespeare depicted historical figures. And that was, we see in plays like Richard II, where it could get Shakespeare in trouble. The way that abdication is being portrayed, and the way that royalty is being talked about, particularly royalty close to the current crown. And I think this play even more so because it is so close to the lives of the people watching it, right? Henry VIII was not that long ago as compared to, Henry V or even Henry VI. That's much more distant history. You can kind of, I don't know, not caricaturize, but you can give them you can fictionalize those figures a little bit more because there's less of a direct connection. Whereas, it's like, hey, I know the Duke of Buckingham.
Yeah.
I remember what the Duke of Norfolk was like at that time. You better be really careful about what you say about this guy because I'm sponsoring your play. And, so I think he really, again, he works with kind of kid gloves around all of these famous figures in this play. Wolsey kind of accepted, but the Catholic Church is in, the Catholic Church is out. It's kind of during that time period, but ultimately, I think everyone kind of gets a chance to look okay by the end of this play.
Something nice
I do have to.
a single character, yeah.
Please.
Oh, I was going to say, you do have to laugh because although Elizabeth is associated with one regicide, Henry, her dad, is related to 2 regicides, including her mother.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Details.
A lot, yeah, and it's so interesting when you look at the way that Henry is depicted. Again, he's depicted very favorably in comparison to other ways that we have seen Henry as this kind of that angry tyrant, as many other fictional depictions of him. He's he's very sharp in this play. He's very he's on the side, trying to be on everybody's good side, and even even though his affair with Anne Boleyn kind of led to the divorce, the play also doesn't spin Anne in a bad light either, right? As this kind of witchy harlot that has seduced him away from his virtuous wife, Catherine, right? It's still like, oh, I didn't know, I didn't ask for this. I still have a lot of respect for the Queen, and I would not want to, overstep my bounds in any way. It's very, again, everybody is being very nice trying to be very nice to everybody, all of these famous historical figures.
And you do have to laugh also because the fact that Anne's father wasn't exactly innocent in pushing her toward anything, and the fact that
No, not at
Henry had
all.
knocked up her sister, and so it's a little bit. And then of course you think about Catherine's parents, and you're going, oh yeah, let's forget about them a little tiny bit.
We're not gonna talk about them in this play. We're gonna set that aside. Let's keep it within this realm here. Yeah.
Do we have any other questions that people wanted to ask or interjections? Okay, cool. I do want to go ahead and add one little small detail that this is, I think, the play with the most stage directions.
Oh yes.
And so the whole,
Many stage
you
directions.
go to see a play. This is one that's worth seeing in person. It's not, as opposed to, reading it or listening to it. This is not a talking heads, everybody's sitting around,
Right.
standing around play. This is a play where people are doing things.
And I think that is another reason why people have been afraid to tackle this play, because it is so prescriptive in the text of how many stage directions there are. And it's like, well, how do we stage a full coronation with the how do we don't have the budget to do, all of these figures in their golden gowns and everything.
We don't have 40 people to line up.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You don't have the budget for all of the things that are described necessarily within there. I think our production does a nice job of preserving the intended spectacle that is written into these stage directions while making it budget friendly. We're keeping its grassroots, but I think the intended effect of the fact that there is pageant. One of the themes of the play is pageantry, right? That public versus private is something that do we have roof saved pyrotechnics? Yeah, the church is being very nice about letting us,
They've been very kind. Roof safe pyrotechnics. That's actually one of the things about this building is they just reinstalled a glass skylight in the room that we're performing in. So I should hope so. That's
yes.
It's a beautiful space.
It is. I definitely recommend coming in and checking out the space. I think it's a really great place to be doing this play.
I'm excited. Yeah, we have time for one more.
Okay, I was going to ask, have you talked to the Waxter Senior Center at 1000 Cathedral Street to tell them about this? Because it's so close, it might get an opportunity to have people who have loved Shakespeare all their life to come and see this production.
No, but I'm making a note and I'm going to be reaching out to them.
Okay.
Right.
Although this is
That
actually
way you get a busload of seniors who can sit there and go, oh, I wasn't alive then, but we studied it in school.
Although I will say one of the things about the space is that it is on the second floor and there is no elevator. So maybe
we have to be
access
cognizant
might
of
be an
that.
issue.
Yeah, that is something to be aware of. Although we are potentially looking at the possibility of filming and making that available digitally for folks that are less able to access that space.
If you don't have somebody to film, I know somebody who has recently been filming a lot of productions. Sean knows who it is. And Jeff is actively interested in doing it for more groups than just us.
Great. That's awesome to hear. Awesome. We are, looking at, one of the great things about the marketing of this play is that it's, because it is so rarely done, it is a lot of people's Shakespeare bucket list, right? The Shakespeare fans have their bingo card of, okay, I've seen all of these histories, I've seen all the tragedy. Oh, but I haven't seen Henry VIII. When is somebody going to do Henry VIII so I can finish having seen all the plays, this might be your chance. This might be your only chance. Because I don't know when the next one's coming along. So
And it took us this long to get to it with BSF, so
BSF has never done it before.
nope.
Oh,
I
Took us 19 years.
it's-
17 years.
It takes a while for people to get around to this one, just for interest or getting to it, or all the other
Mhm.
things that people want to cover first, and plays that get repeated. So,
But if you love it, you love it.
yeah,
It gets you.
and I mean, hopefully this will inspire somebody to come see it, and they'll go back to their troop and go, guys, look what I just saw. Because when you take something like this and you actually look at it, and you look at the text, and you look at what you can bring to the stage with it, it's actually a really good play. It's thank you for that, Beth. So that's and we are at the half hour. So
Oh,
thank you all
yes.
for joining us, and we're going to do come and see us April 14th, April 30th. It's off of St. Paul Street. And we'll be seeing you not at the Kestrel, but at St. Mark's Lutheran. So
Right.
go
I'll
ahead. Beth.
miss it.
I do have one quick question. I just saw there was a Shakespeare Haggadah. Does anybody have it, and is it any good?
I looked at excerpts and I think it's terrible.
Okay,
But I'm not into funky Haggadahs.
okay. No, it's better to ask than to assume.
I mean, look at Amazon has like a couple of pages of it, and
Yeah,
I think
I know.
people who like
because it said
Shakespeare Star Wars might like it.
yeah, because it said it's good for tweens, and I'm going, ooh.
Oh,
When
yeah.
it's good for tweens, you got to be careful. Okay, thank you. I apologize.
That's okay. We got this. So that's pretty much it. Come see the show, and we'll be seeing you in the audience. Thank you so much, Jeff.
thank you.
Bye-bye.
thank you.